Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. Item on the agenda, the minutes for the last planning committee. I believe there will be
a revised amendment, Chairman, on page 7, right at the bottom. There should be the insertion of the word "not" after the business was not agricultural.
Which makes a big difference, I'm sure you
Well, type A.
Yeah. Are you happy, members, that we sign as a true and correct record, including that amendment?
Agreed.
Great, thank you. Apologies for absence.
Apologies received from councillors Daventry, Kevin Parker and Leanne Osborne.
Members' interest. First of all, disclosable interests.
No.
No. Party whipping arrangement.
No.
Sorry, did you want to say something?
Yeah. Oh gosh. The last one.
The Daventry one.
Yeah, obviously I have been part of discussions at the Town Council on the Daventry one, but I'll remain impartial and will listen to everything put before me this evening.
Thank you. Party whipping arrangements, members of the public, next week. Sorry? You say something?
And so before your sentence.
Is that it? Right. Okay, party whipping arrangements. Members of the public, that means we don't get together and decide how we're going to vote beforehand. It's all done on the evening by individuals. There is, as you'll be aware, one application that's been determined under delegated powers. It's a delegated approval and it's the application on tonight's agenda for Cold Ashton. Right. A few things to tell you about housekeeping. If the fire alarm bell rings, it's not a practice, so please try and go out as orderly as possible the way you come in. Please switch your mobile devices to silent. The proceedings will be recorded. Speakers will have 3 minutes. After that, you'll be asked to wind up when you hear a tone. That is the only opportunity for you to speak, so if you please don't interrupt during the rest of the debate. No clapping, cheering, hissing, booing, which I'm sure you won't do anyway. And during the meeting, you'll see people on this table certainly talking while you're talking, which looks like bad manners. We're trying to get an answer for the things you're saying, so that's the reason. Members, the update on the performance is virtually identical to last time, which is 83% and 3% of majors on appeal. One more thing to tell you, or to invite you, any member of the planning committee, if they want to come to the meeting, it's not a pre-meeting, it's chairman's briefing, because many of you have said, well, what do you talk about at chairman's briefing? Anybody who wants to come along to the chairman's briefing can phone up Maria and can come along and listen to what exactly happens. They can't take part in it, but they can come along and listen if they want to. So if you want to come along, just phone Maria and you can turn up.
And observe.
Next we go to the planning applications, and the first one is in Woodford Co-Memories.
Thank you, Chairman. This is a full application for the construction of 32 houses to land north of Byfield Road in Woodford Holes. The site benefits from outline planning permission and reserve matters permission for the construction of up to 200 houses. In a sense, what this full application does is seek to add more houses. It can't be dealt with under the reserve matters or outline permission, so hence why it's a full application. The principle has been established on site because of the outline and the reserved matters application. Consideration, therefore, should only be had for the details of the siting design, layout, landscaping and drainage details. The siting and design of this scheme is considered to be acceptable. The layout is also considered to be acceptable, and so is the landscaping. The local legal flood authority has raised some objections, but these relate to technical matters only and are subject to consultations and negotiations, which are expected to be resolved. The application is therefore recommended for approval, subject to favourable comment from the local strategy team relating to the tenure and distribution of the affordable housing, which for this particular application is 40%, whereas the other scheme is only 29%, and comments from the lead local flood authority, and also subject to the completion of the section 106. This proposal will be still liable. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. We've got two members that wish to speak. Councillor Griffin is going first. Councillor Griffin.
Thank you, Chairman. The 40% affordable housing is to be welcomed, although my parish council would like to see more adequate parking. In most developments, this is never quite sufficient. Homes of more than one occupant and visitors are also likely. Our village has a history of flooding. I note the local lead flood authority requests more information together with the DDC drainage officer. We have rising ground to the north with the risk of overland flows, and will also be losing arable land which in the past has soaked up a great deal of water. If the future global warming tendency is to be addressed, increased flows should be taken into account. My parish council also regrets that a general need for bungalows in the private sector is not being addressed. I know this isn't particularly relevant here, however, they would like me to say this. This lack of provision is not addressing the need of the elderly who wish to downsize and have to remain in family-sized houses. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Griffin. Councillor Patchett.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Just sort of a little bit of background history with this is in that in 2012 we came along here with the parish council and us ward members, and we said that this site would not be deliverable within the 5-year plan period, and we haven't we haven't got a sold house on it yet, and we're 3.5 years down the line. And we also said at the time that the size and temperature and the type of houses that were planned weren't acceptable to Woodford Health, and indeed we now have a change which is actually a little bit more of a common sense kind of idea, and it is really more of what we've got here is more of the sort of thing that we would like to see in Woodford generally. The sill money is welcome because the parish council is currently purchasing what's called the cinder path, which is the old railway embankment, which carries the Cherwell, and which the Cherwell will carry a great deal of the water from this site. And the concern really is that when the water comes down along the Cherwell, it ends up a pool street at the bottom end of the village. And this is why the Environment Agency and indeed the water companies have an issue with the amount of water that comes down there and how they're going to deal with it. So, I mean, I have grave concerns about the additional housing, but really there are benefits to this which it's better than what's approved already, so I'd have to sort of stop there and listen to the members, I think, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Patchett. Councillor Frenchman.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just a little bit confused, so perhaps the officer could clarify. The site has outline planning permission, so how can you have an additional 32 houses, and why are they additional to what?
Basically, with outline planning permission, the outline planning permission only grants up to 200 houses. So what the proposal seeks to do is to develop 200 houses on part of the site. What this full application seeks to do is construct additional houses
On the same land.
on the same land.
Right.
So, in a sense, the whole development, which was originally granted outline consent as 200, in a sense, is now going to be a total of 232 houses.
That's the bit I didn't slightly get.
Through you, Chairman, Catherine, I'll just point out on the plan which bits this relates to.
The outline planning permission pretty much granted permission for this whole site around here. The red line is not very clear on here which this part of the application relates, but it pretty much comes off the main road here, goes along there, main road. It doesn't include this bit here, but this 32 houses includes this bit and the attenuation down here. So the original outline application, or the reserved matters application, is currently being built out, which is to the south here. We have got another reserved matters application for 155 houses in at the moment to deal with this aspect of the site. So both what's being constructed down here at the moment and the outline, or the reserved matters, I should say, here and here will total 200 houses. But because the outline specifically says 200, you can't go above that without applying for another planning application. The benefits of that is pretty much is now we've got the 40% affordable housing scheme, and also it's still liable because when the original outline planning permission was granted, it was 29% and no sale.
Excellent, thank you very much.
Councillor Swift.
Yes, could I come back to the seal? Because some of the houses sound very nice for first-time buyer, but very small. So they might be below the 100 square. All of them are above, will be subject to seal.
Every new house, whereas it's extensions that to the 100 square metres, that's when seal applies. But for new houses, seal automatically applies. Apart from the affordable housing, there's a...
Yes, there's a discount.
Yeah.
So we will have the seal for, so 32 houses, 40% will be affordable, so 13 houses would be affordable.
20 odd, yeah.
Yeah, so, and also it goes on floor area.
Yes.
So internal floor area. So
it would be 65 pounds per square metre.
£200 per square metre.
It's a rural area.
It's a rural.
Yeah.
And there's new homes bonus as well.
Yes, and there's new homes bonus on top of that as well.
Okay, Councillor Swift.
But because I was looking on my map, on my sealed charge, and I have 60 residential rural zone, sealed at or above the affordable housing threshold, £65. And after residential rural zone, sealed below affordable housing threshold, £200. So that, if they put 14 houses, they would be above the threshold, so they would be at £65.
No, it's 200.
It's 200 for the non-affordable.
That is what. But it's just query, doesn't matter. But that is what is on the.
Okay, well.
On the
Could we ask
Daventry.
officers to clarify as of when you can?
Yeah, no.
It's the seal is applicable.
Seal is a learning curve for everybody, but my understanding is it's £200, and when it's affordable threshold, then when those affordable housing, it's a reduced amount. So it's the affordable housing. That's how I understand it, but certainly it's something that we could clarify.
That would be super. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Ramble.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, I welcome the fact that the affordable housing scheme has increased. Again, I had serious concerns over drainage. And of these 32 houses, just to get it in my mind, is it being on the same plot but being squashed in? So, or is it just an extra piece of land that is going on?
For you, Chairman, it's It's no additional land. It's all the land, all the additional houses in an area which benefits from outline. So it's not encroaching further into the open countryside. If that's
So building a higher density.
yes. In sense with drainage, there is a serious concern which we do have to consider. That's why part of the recommendation is subject to no objection from the lead local flood authority. The Environment Agency did not object to the original outline application or the reserved matters application. So what we're just having a look is the impact on the additional 32. Yes, we know that the local flood authority does object to the proposal, but saying that, it's on a technical issue and it's likely that can be resolved. In the sense we, as officers, do not want to have flooding caused elsewhere as a result of any development. So hence why we consult externally, either through the Environment Agency or the lead local flood authority, to consider whether the information before us is acceptable and whether they consider the calculations that they've done are appropriate in that particular case. But the development on this site should not sustain flooding elsewhere.
It's only that somebody mentioned that last week, after we had quite significant rainfall, the balancing pond on the other side of the road was brimming. And obviously that's without all these houses built, let alone that is a real concern. And the open space, that will stay exactly as it is. They won't encroach on that at all.
No, that's not part of the application.
Thank you.
Councillor Paul.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I have to agree with the local member concerning parking spaces. I think we have too many examples in and around Daventry. If I take the Timken estate, Middlemore, in particular, and parts of Lang Farm, where there are inadequate parking spaces, there are casual parking spaces dotted here and there. However, a visit to these estates, once everybody is home from work, quite how an emergency vehicle would travel around these estates is sometimes beyond belief. In fact, would be, I think in a lot of occasions, downright impossible. And I think in this day and age, whilst we have a yearning for everybody to get on a bicycle or walk, it's not going to happen. It may happen in Holland, it won't happen in England. And there should be a provision for at least 2 parking spaces for each of the dwellings. As for flooding, I mean, there are quite substantial SUDs, sustainable urban drainage on site, and I welcome the officers further investigation into that. But apart from that, Chairman, I'd like to propose we approve officers' advice.
Thank you, Councillor Paul. Do you have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor. Would you like to speak now?
No?
Okay. Councillor, would you like to make a comment on what Councillor Paul said?
Yeah, in the sense with parking, I know that's something which has been raised, but just looking at the layout, if you notice, the majority of these properties have got quite long car parking spaces in front of the garages, which you could adequately get 2 cars in front. So pretty much you could argue that there's 2 parking spaces, and plus we do count garages as parking space.
It would be nice if I may come back, Chairman, with the greatest respect. Daventry is full of garages that you can't get a Mini into and get out of.
So is the district. People tend to use garages for the
As a shed.
separate group.
So I would urge that our officers would perhaps lean on gently developers to include a size of garage that a small to medium sized car could be comfortably entered and open a door to get out.
Would be probably better if politicians leaned on government, because it's
agree with that as well, Chairman.
I'm afraid they've made the rules just as they are. Right, does anybody else wish to, you do wish to speak?
Just to add to that, Chairman, I understood that there was policy in the making to talk about minimum standards for houses and appurtenances. For too long we've been squeezing the houses smaller and smaller and smaller, so that you've got a bedroom that you can't put a bed in. I talked to a developer about how you couldn't get a wardrobe up the stairs, and he said, but I thought you'd all buy one from IKEA and take the flat pack upstairs and build the wardrobe. We do have, I do believe, Chairman, that there is some move in that direction, according to the Councillor's wish.
Thank you. Right. Councillor Thatcher?
Yeah, can I just emphasise the fact that when officers are discussing the drainage and the sorting it out with Taylor Wimpey and the drainage authority, that they err on the side of caution for the water that will go eventually down towards Fall Street, because it is an issue that's where it's going to end up, and it does flood now. And we've explored an application down that end and was rejected for one of those reasons. That was one of the reasons why. And I think that the developers should be at least held account for a number of years, just to make sure that there isn't a problem after the building built.
Right, well, I think the officers have heard what you said, and I'm sure those comments will be passed on at the appropriate time. Councillor Owen-Smith?
Yes, in the condition, we don't have something to be approved that all the technicality is a flooding.
Because part of the recommendation is subject to agreement with the lead local flood authority. Now, if they come back and recommend conditions, then that's something which we will
automatically
put on.
Okay, we have a proposal that the application be approved as per officers' advice, and which has been seconded. All those in favour, please show. Those against? One. The application is approved. The next application is 0797, as it is in Daventry.
Thank you, Chairman. The site relates to a large attached property on Vines Road in Bowton, and the members will recall that very recently very large extensions were approved by this committee on this particular site. The application before us tonight relates to a single-storey, single garage, the front of the property. From an officer's point of view, the detached garage does not result in overdevelopment of the site, would not have a significant impact on the street scene, and consequently recommend this application be approved, Chairman. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have a speaker, Mr. Clark, Parish Council.
Chairman, thank you. On behalf of that Parish Council, thank you for the opportunity to talk to you tonight about this application to support our objection to this proposal to construct a detached garage in front of a dwelling which is now extended to its boundaries, and we have got a picture of it here, and which we previously regarded as an overdevelopment of the site. We cannot overemphasise too much the significant and commanding position that this corner property enjoys within Vines Road and the village as a whole. In relation to this, the Parish Council believe that the further development would have a demonstrably harmful effect on the character and appearance of the street scene. Although there is a variety of building types in Bowton, it is essential that the character of the village built environment be maintained, as referenced in our village design statement under building guidelines. We hold the view that the previous extensions already produce a substantial property, and the addition of a single garage, detached property separate from the main house, will further exacerbate the scale of the whole property. We also consider that the application for a garage should have been included as part of the original application, so we could have considered it as a whole and not as an afterthought, and that in any event a single garage is disproportionate to the size of the house, and that if this application is approved, it will set a precedent for further development on this site. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Local member, Councillor Frenchman.
Thank you. Could you put up the site plan, please? No, the overall, yes, that's one. I have to say that knowing this site reasonably well, I echo the sentiments of the parish council in that as you drive into the village, it's a very prominent position, and they have, as mentioned, significantly extended it, so it now extends the whole width of the plot. But what you can see from there is there's a very strong building line, and nobody has built in front of it. And I think to then start a precedent of putting a garage to the front of it in such a prominent position is a sort of double whammy in a village such as Boughton. And once one person gets it, they all start jumping on the bandwagon, and it sets a precedent. I do think, despite what the officer has said, that it is an overdevelopment of the site with the size, as you've seen from the other photographs, of the what was a reasonably modest house being built into quite a large property with, you could argue, 2 wings even. But I have to say that building a single garage seems a slightly silly thing to do, though I'm not in the mind of the applicant, because there is obviously more than one person living in there that will have a vehicle. So it escapes me why it wasn't a double garage. So I would actually consider proposing a refusal of this planning application for it being an overdevelopment of the site, and I don't know if a building line is actually a material planning consideration, because it's detrimental to the street scene.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Swift, you're seconding the proposal. Would you like to speak now?
Yes, I would like to speak. When everybody or people who live in North Rugby will know the house that has a garage in front of it, and the design is absolutely appalling. And what it is, here you have something that they wanted to have a symmetry in the new house, and that garage destroyed completely the effects they wanted in the first place. And on top of that, so the design of the garage, where it is, destroyed the effects they wanted on the house. And as Councillor Frenchman says, the street scene, you have a line where nothing has been built, and if you have that, you create a precedent, which I think would be detrimental for the community at large, because it will be piecemeal all the time. So if I could have, with the village design statement, I'm sure they must have put something about their street scene, and that maybe could be put in our refusal if members are willing to support our position.
Thank you, Councillor Swift. John wants to say.
Members, I appreciate that when it comes to design, symmetry of a building is important, and equally, yes, that does contribute to the appearance of a building. But on this particular occasion, what we're considering is the single-storey garage. Now, looking at the context of the whole building itself, we have to establish to what degree does that single-storey, single garage have a detrimental effect on the whole of the symmetry of that building, have regard to the scale of that building already. Equally, I disagree that there is a consistent building line within Vice Road in Boughton. There is a varying building line, and on many occasions the buildings will be stepped back or stepped further forward. And while it's not apparent on that site location plan, if you drive down Vice Road into Boughton, there are a number of existing detached garages to the front of the properties already. I don't feel on this particular occasion that the proposed detached garage in front of this particular building would be significantly out of character with these very large plots on with large dwellings and very large plots. And we have to take into consideration the scale of this particular single-storey garage, having regard to the size and scale of those plots.
Chairman, could I come back? I looked on Google, I didn't go on the site, and it's true you have some garages that are put, but for me, because the house was built with a symmetry, and even a single garage destroys that symmetry, and because it's in a corner plot, when you see it, you will see that single garage next. So for me, the design is really destroying the symmetry. And I know it's a question of taste, but I am still in an overall belief that the double garage is a bit like a carbuncle, but on a face that you might agree it's beautiful or not, but it's add a carbuncle on that building. That's all. There you have, yes, a building, yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Daventry. I can remember, and it probably was that one, quite a few years ago, I can remember the same arguments being made for that one on the front. I don't know whether it went on appeal, but it certainly lost at this council, that one on the front. Anyway, any more speakers, please? If not, we have a proposal that's been seconded that it be refused for the given reasons. Would you like to repeat them again, Councillor Fracture?
I think, yes, the detrimental effect on the street scene, the overdevelopment of the site, and I think Councillor Owen Swift's comment about whether it's contrary to any of the village design statement for Bowden as well. I'm not familiar with the documents, so I don't know if there's a specific. Is there? Just nod. Yes, there is.
There's a symmetry.
Yeah, and I'm not so bothered about that. It's just that the people who live there are entitled to ruin their own symmetry if they like. But you can see that there is an open aspect to all this road, especially as you go further into it where the houses get bigger. So I'm quite comfortable with those reasons.
Thank you. So the application has been proposed for refusal. It's been seconded. All those that agree with that proposal, please show. Those against? Six. 1, 2, 3, 4 against. The application is refused for the given reasons. Come back. Next application is 0803, and it's in Crick.
Thank you, Chairman. This is a full application for the conversion of outbuildings to form a home office for Block 2, which is currently being built under Planning Commission DA 2015-0153. The site is within the village of Crick and is a very short distance walk to the main centre by the co-op, and is set at the back edge of the pavement. At present there are no openings to the street frontage. The proposal has been amended to over concerns regarding highways and the impact on the character of the locality. Originally the application was for a standalone office and not as a home office for Block 2. And originally there were windows and doors facing onto the highway, so ruining the street character. The parish objects to the proposal due to highway safety. However, on the receipt of the amended plans, the local highway authority have no objection to the proposal, subject to a condition being imposed, which is suggested. A planning condition is recommended to ensure that the proposal will not result in a danger to those using the highway, i.e. it will remain as a home office only and not lent out as a separate, so similar to the annexes, which you tend to see before. The application is recommended for approval. Members' attention is drawn to the late representations. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Local member, well, we have two here, but who's going first? Councillor Robertson, it should be the member of the committee unless you've agreed.
No, but I've agreed that Councillor Lomax may speak first.
Councillor Lomax, you're on.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I haven't got very much to say. I share the Parish Council's concerns about pedestrian safety and parking. The original application referred to 1 full-time and 3 part-time workers. I don't know what it says in the updated application because it's not on the website. But if the amended application still anticipates this, then there has to be a presumption that there may be people arriving in cars and adding to the parking on the street already. Many of you who know Crick know the difficulties of the main road and of High Street and that junction, where parking already severely reduces the sight lines. Of course, this opening is also opposite the pub, so there are also cars going in and out to the pub all the time. And passage of vehicles down the main road is a bit of a nightmare there at any time. If you approve it tonight, then it's absolutely essential that the conditions 1 and 3 are imposed in order that there should be some control of the concerns.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Robertson.
Thank you, Chair. I absolutely agree with what Councillor Lomax has stated. Well, I do think that the Parish Council have slightly overstated the business about lorries. I can't really quite understand that. And I think that officers have actually got this thing resolved now by making it ancillary to the use of the house, and that will effectively exclude it being let as will exclude it from being let as offices anyway. So I don't believe that it represents that big a danger to traffic, although obviously it represents some. Crick is now, of course, bypassed, so it's no longer the main road, other than into the village itself. And the houses apparently are now sold. I use that road every day, pretty much, and I would be very pleased to see them finish. That's all I'm getting at. Basically, they're cutting up the road and half the parking with their barriers.
Thank you, Councillor.
Oh, and I'd like to propose, just before that, I would like to propose that we accept officers' advice.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder?
No.
Yes, Councillor Evans. Would you like to speak now, Councillor Evans, or not?
No, just to say that I agree with officers' advice and I don't have any problems with it.
Okay, the next person on the list is Councillor Frenchman and then Councillor Evans.
Thank you, Chair. Again, if I could seek some clarification from the officers, that would be useful. I'm right in suggesting that the office is to be used by the residents of the house, so one assumes they're not going to drive to work.
Yes.
Secondly, there appears to be quite a driveway from the through this up to the house. So there is actually room for off-road parking if there are 1 or 2 workers that commute to the office.
It is proposed for a home office, and actually, if you notice, they have got a 2-car garage. It's quite a large double garage, and there is also parking in front of those properties as well.
What I'm driving at is, excuse the pun, could we have a condition that they're not allowed to park on the street, or that they should provide parking spaces on their plot?
It's yellow light.
No,
It's outside the remit of planning.
It's
Not that they should provide parking spaces, though.
because this is for a home office, so you generally expect the person within the house to use it as a home office rather
To
than...
clarify, it won't generate business rates, it won't be a business premises.
Okay, I thought I heard somebody say that 2 or 3 people would work there who...
Previous applicants.
Oh, sorry, okay. And would it be, or could it be, that we took permitted development rights away from this particular section of the building?
In a sense, because it's full of the main house,
Yeah.
and it's such a size, any alterations would in fact require planning permission.
Fine, thank you very much.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Evans.
Yes, I have another angle. I read what the conservation officer said, and I tend to agree with her. They don't need to put a door on the street, which adds maybe a danger with people going in and out of the door, and everything could have been dealt with the back. When you look at the drawing, I know we cannot, but because it's just a home office with a lantern roof, and they have enough light coming from the back without adding anything and leave it as a wall. I thought it would be prettier than to add a door and a window. It will keep.
There is no yeah, that was the original submission.
Yeah.
So what they've done is taken into account. So the door which you actually see on the plans is actually to the rear, not the front. So that there's one door on the front. They've changed the design. So there's a roof light now instead of a roof lantern, and also there's no windows or doors to the street elevation.
So it will stay as you said. Yes. That's all what I want.
Thank you, Councillor Barrett.
Thank you, Chairman. I was concerned with the original application over the traffic issues. And I think that looking carefully at condition 3, which presumably if this was approved that will be included, I think that does make it clear that the only users are going to be the inhabitants of that property. So in fact you could almost argue it's going to be less traffic because they're not going elsewhere to work. They're not going to be commuting. So my original objection that I would have had concerning the traffic certainly is mitigated by that condition of looking at the rest of the application now as the rest of the councils discuss it.
Thank you. Right, if there are no more comments, we have a proposal the application be approved, which has been seconded. All those who agree with that proposal, please show. Unanimous. Unanimous. The application is approved. Next application is in Kilsby, and the number is 0830.
Thank you, Chairman. Members will recall this site from last year. It actually came to planning committee in September last year, as I understand, where we refused to outline consent for a number of reasons. The applicants appealed against that decision, but withdrew the appeal, as you noticed by the planning history of the site. The site is to the northern edge of Kilsby in the open countryside. This is a resubmission of the outline application with all matters reserved for the access. The number of dwellings is up to 99. Since the previous decision, Daventry has now reached its rural housing requirements, and the applicants have also submitted additional information regarding archaeology, noise, ecology and highways. The neighbourhood plan is also at a more advanced stage. We are currently waiting for an examination for an inspector to consider the neighbourhood plan. The proposal is now unlikely to have a detrimental impact on archaeology, noise, ecology or highways. So those aspects have been removed from the recommendation for refusal. In effect, those weren't going to be argued at the appeal either. The proposal is considered not to be in a sustainable location or development due to its impact on Ridgeland Borough, which is an undesignated heritage asset. It's an important open space to the form and character of the village and its connection with the facilities in Kilsby. The proposal is therefore recommended for refusal. If members are minded to approve the application, a request has been made by the Department of Communities and Local Government for the decision to be put on hold until the Secretary of State decides whether to call the application in. Members' attention is drawn to late representations. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. We have two speakers. First of all, Mr. Dunn from the Parish Council.
Good evening, councillors. My name is Reg Dunn. I'm the chairman of the Kilsby Parish Council. I'd like to thank you for giving me this opportunity to explain why we do not want 99 houses to be built in greenfields on the outskirts of our village. Kilsby is a small village with just over 500 households. In January of this year, the District Council carried out a housing needs survey in Kilsby, and 9 households were identified with the need for housing. 5 of these wanted older persons accommodation, 3 expressed the need for a 1-bedroom flat, and 1 family expressed a need for a 2-bedroom house. During the last year, we have had permission granted for an estate of 40 houses, and a further 11 new houses are nearing completion. I tell you this to point out that Kilsby has already had a 10% increase in the number of houses in the village in the last year, and the proposed application will not provide bungalows to allow elderly residents to downsize. We do not believe that there is a need or justification for even more houses. The proposal is on a greenfield site beyond the confines of the village and would be visible from Rugby Road and the A5, given a far more urban context to the village than is appropriate. The fields that they want to build on are areas of ridge and furrow, and the parish value and feel that they are important as part of the application site is on the location of an old wash pit area and therefore to be built in an area of flood risk. Kilsby is very keen to do whatever it can to maintain and preserve its rural identity, particularly since it will become the closest village to the 6,200 house town that is going to be built at the old radio mast site at Junction 18. Our green space between the village and Dirk will become an even more important buffer in the future as Dirk 3 is built. We hope now that Daventry District Council has a 5-year, we know now that they have a 5-year housing land supply and that you already met your target for housing numbers in a rural area, that you refuse this application and help us to preserve the rural nature of our village. Kilsby is already experiencing problems from overload and inadequate strategic services. Anglian Water Authority is advising that the current capacity is unable to sustain further large-scale developments. I personally have had conversations with Severn Trent to repair the pipe which had been leaking raw sewage down the main road, and have been informed that the existing sewers are of such small size that they are at capacity, and only a major improvement involving replacement of existing pipework with a larger capacity will relieve the problem. There is no gas in the village and therefore a heavy reliance on electricity, where local power plants are becoming a regular occurrence. The provision of broadband connection remains an outstanding and ongoing problem, as we seem to be getting various broadband speeds throughout the village. The residents are sure that the village will not be able to cope with so many extra houses without upgrades to the village facilities. Thank you for listening, and I urge you to refuse this application.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chamberlain, who is also against the application.
Good evening, and thanks again for the opportunity to speak. I represent the Kilsby Action Group, who were formed to oppose inappropriate development in our village. As my colleague from the Parish Council said, there are circa 500 houses in Kilsby, and Kilsby Action Group represents some 200 of those. The application to build 99 houses is on one of the better examples of ridge and furrow in the county. The application was refused permission, was the subject of appeal, as Reg said, and as the officers. The appellant chose a public inquiry, and having put the District Council and us to significant expense and trouble, withdrew shortly before the inquiry date. They said, and I refer you to the slide, that they would save us all a lot of time and trouble by pulling out early. It was 2 weeks before the inquiry. But they obviously don't understand irony, because here we are all again, discussing this exact same case. This is a cut and paste of a previous application with some cosmetic changes. We lobbied the Secretary of State, who called the case in, and our parish councillor worked really hard to formulate a neighbourhood plan to set out the way that the residents want to see the village grow. In Gladman's letter of withdrawal, they referred to the fact that the Secretary of State had called it in, and also that the neighbourhood plan was in advanced condition. That was not new information. They pulled out because they suddenly realised that the weight against them in the inquiry was going the wrong way. That's why they pulled out at that point. The officers recommended refusal of this application, and I urge you to support that. From a planning perspective, the argument is really clear. You do have a 5-year land supply, and Kilsby can therefore be treated as a restricted infill village. The joint core strategy is adopted and in place, and the rural housing target has already been met. The neighbourhood plan is in an advanced position, having been overwhelmingly supported by the community, and can be given weight in the decision-making process. The housing needs evidence that my colleague referred to is really clear that the community doesn't need these executive homes. From a historical perspective, building on this green space, building on this green furrow, would be unforgivable. And as Heritage England said, once it's built on, you can't replace it. Gone, it's gone forever. I accept that you're obliged, under the current planning system, to reconsider this application. But the fact we're all here again talking about this application is a scandalous waste of taxpayers' money. Be no doubt we'll continue to support the District Council. We're grateful for your support thus far and for the officer recommending refusal. And we'll continue to fight this type of development where the profit motive is the only consideration. And the democratic process is ignored. We'll go again to the Secretary of State and, if necessary, to judicial review to present the village being steamrolled into this type of unwanted development. Thanks for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, sir. Local members. Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. We've heard what the parish councils have to say and other speakers, and I have to say I couldn't agree more. This application is just a speculation. I've said this before and I'll say it again. The parishes of Crick, Barby and Kilsby are under enormous pressure to develop simply because they're near another big industrial development, and the housing need has been taken care of by our neighbours. There is no necessity for this development, and we've heard that it's going to completely overwhelm the services that are available to the village at present. I therefore have no hesitation in proposing that we turn this development down and accept advice of
Thank you. Do you have a second? Thank you, Councillor Frenchman. I won't ask you to speak yet.
I don't want
There's
to.
a local member to speak. Councillor Owen.
What can I say, Chairman?
I'm sure you'll say it.
Yeah, I'll say something. I can't add anything to the eloquent submissions of the local people. This is a cynical application. It's largely unchanged from last time, as has already been said, and it only deserves rejection. The officer's report is measured, comprehensive and robust. Members, follow officer's advice. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a short sentence. Deliverance. Thank you. Right, Councillor Frenchman, do you want to say?
No, only to say that I echo everything that everyone said.
Okay, I think. Chaplain.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to remind members of two things. One is the fact that we've exceeded our rural housing allocation in joint cross strategy does not mean that we will not allow any more development in the rural area. But nevertheless, my second point is that this is clearly against policy, and so I have no hesitation in supporting the proposal.
Thank you. Councillor Patchett?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say, members, that Kilsby has in fact taken a large amount of development over the last few years, and enough's enough, I think, in respect of this particular village, so I'm happy to support the advice.
Thank you. In that case, we have. You wish to speak, Councillor Paul?
Yeah, just quickly to thank officers for an excellent report, and their reason for refusal on page 84 and 85 are more than explicit, so I'll go along with officers' advice on it.
Thank you, Councillor Paul. It's always nice when officers support the things both we want and the parishes want as well.
We love them then.
They go on when they don't. Anyway, we have a proposal that the application be refused as per officer's advice, and for the reasons given, this has been seconded. All those in agreement, please show. That's unanimous. Thank you. The application is yet again refused. Thank you very much.
Yeah. This is too
Only one left.
Right. Don't you feel all alone sitting there, sir? Anyway, we move on to the last application, which is in Abbey's House, and it's 0924. Over to you, Catherine.
Thank you, Chairman. This is the site, is the former job centre building at the end of the town centre on St James Street. The proposed, it's within the, as you can see by the site location plan, it's within the conservation area of Daventry as well. The proposal is the change of use from A2, which is professional and financial services, to D2, a gym. No external alterations are proposed. The site is located close to existing town centre car parks, as parking is restricted on site. Highways and Town Council have raised concerns regarding the parking provision. Given the distance is involved to the nearby parking or public car parks, it's considered that there's ample parking within the vicinity for there to be not to cause a danger to those using the highway. In any case, the parking around that area is also restricted by double yellow lines. The Town Council has also raised objection to the proposal through the office space. The building has been vacant for the last 2 years. The proposal therefore seeks to reuse this existing vacant building and is considered to be acceptable. Therefore it's recommended for approval, and also members' attention is drawn to make representations. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor. Now we go to the local member for Abbey's House. I don't know about this. Councillor.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm completely behind officers' advice with this. I am a bit concerned with the reasons that the Town Council are objecting to it, because, as has been said by the officer, the buildings have been open since 2013. If people wanted office space, they would have been filled up by now. And there are lots of other offices in the town that I know of that have not been filled. I don't think it'd be a negative impact. It's the same with everything else. If you open a new premises and that is better than somewhere else, yes, they will leave the other one and come to you. But it also gives them the chance to up their game and improve their premises as well. If we grant this and it doesn't take off, then it will close again. But I think it should be given a chance so that people can see whether it is better than some of the one we've got. As far as parking is concerned, we've got the leisure centre over the road. It hasn't got any delegated parking. People park in the local car park, which is open to everybody. And I think that they will do the same in this. Plus the fact, being as it's in the middle of the town, I'm sure quite a few of the people that use it will walk. So I'm quite happy to propose that we follow officers' advice with this.
Thank you, Councillor Adam. Do you have a second then? Councillor Paul, I think you were a microsecond before that being filled in. Behind you. Do you wish to speak now? Back later? You can do. Councillor Randall is next.
Thank you, Chairman. I've got huge concerns over the parking. That is my main concern over this. Obviously, when it was offices, most of the staff were parking there all day. Any of us that live in Daventry will know that the car park behind during the day is frequently full. You've mentioned here about Tesco and Bowen Square car park. I understand that even though they are open to the public, they are private car parks. A lot of the staff in town park in the Tesco car park because there is no parking available. Bowen Square car park is an absolute nightmare with traffic that queues along that road while they're waiting to get in there. So, and if during the daytime, it is very rare you can drive straight in there and get a parking space. Same with Tesco's, that's frequently full now. Shop's not full, the car park is. We heard at the last planning meeting that the new Hill School only had a third of the required parking. and that there will be parking available in town. So already, we've already got a development that is pushing, going to be using more of our allocated parking spaces. This area has been designated by the Northamptonshire Safer Roads Alliance as a red route. This means that there are significant pedestrians that are being hit by cars, and it is along Bagley Road, down this road, all the way around as a red route. So I have serious concerns with parking.
Thank you, Councillor Randall. You'd like to come back, Maria?
I'm just really to make a point about the change of use. Until 2 years ago, this was used as the job centre, and as a result, with no designated parking spaces, all the staff and probably a couple of hundred people visited this facility every day. And when considering the change of use from offices to a gym, I think it's got to be considered that you're not going to get any more footfall with the change of use than the previous use of this building. So I think that needs to be borne in mind by members.
Councillor Manley,
yeah, just coming back on that one, obviously it's a bit different going in to sign on a job centre than there is to go to the gym. A lot of people who do go to the gym are dashing from one place to the other. They may go before work, they may go after work, they will be using the cars. A lot of people that actually entered that job centre did not have a vehicle, so a lot of them used to walk. Now, so I'm not talking about whatever that building is used for, the parking is my concern.
I think people from Longbuckby and the other villages that went to the job centre
and we've grown, the town is growing, continue to growing, and as I said, with the special school, only a third of the parking is allocated, 2/3 of that parking is already being pushed into town. We heard at this last meeting they could use the outdoor pool site.
I made the comment because you said many people work there, but not from the villages, they wouldn't walk there.
Well, parking is a huge concern. As I said, it is a red route. County Council, that means that they're spending money on the road because of pedestrian accidents.
Longbuckby High Street's a red route as well. Anyway, I have 4 names to speak, which is Councillor Frenchman, Councillor Chartler, Councillor Irving-Swift and Councillor Robinson. If I've missed anybody, stick your hand up now. No. Councillor Frenchman.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Just picking up the Councillor Randall's, I'm not familiar with this site as much as other people. And if you put the plan up again, could you indicate where the car parks actually are, please?
Yeah, so I've actually got a map ready. All these blue areas are parking. The site is around here, as you can see in the Audi.
Yeah.
So you've got those parking, you've got Tesco's, you've also got the Gasworks car park, and you've all got sort of pretty much car parks.
I understand now. Thank you very much.
Councillor Chartler.
Only to observe, Chairman, that although I'm obviously not a frequenter of gymnasia, I do nevertheless support this enterprise and I support the application.
Thank you, Councillor Irving-Swift.
Yes, I think in this day and age where we should all lose weight and be fit, I think it has to be commended that somebody wants to open a gym, and I think in Longbuckby, in your corner, you have a gym that seems, every time I go past, it's busy. The only thing I would like in the condition 2, is when it's operated, 6 o'clock in the morning till 21, Monday to Friday. I do think the 6 o'clock is a bit early if there is some residents nearby. I have a gym and they open at 7 o'clock. So from there. 6 o'clock in the morning?
I think that's quite common for these sort of places to open. My daughter goes to White Cricket.
Through you, Chairman, if there was any issue, because it is, there are people living nearby, any issues, if there was any issues of noise or disturbance, that could of course be dealt with through environmental health.
Okay,
so that might well be, subject to additional limitations if a problem arises.
And on top of that, the environmental health officer actually recommended condition 2 and 3 to make sure that there's no noise or disturbance to the local residents.
So if that is all right, I'm fine.
Thank you, Councillor Robertson.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just to correct me, officers, if I'm wrong, but I believe that Tesco, as a company nationally, have said that their car parking facilities will be available to the general public as part of their community spiritedness, and I believe that they've actually said that you can use it whether you use Tesco or not. It's just a point of
Whatever Tesco was saying nationally, there is a condition on the car park that it was originally owned by DVC and may still be in lease, and it is a public car park.
All right.
So that is the case with that.
So it can be used.
According to the car parking thing which is available on our website, it says it's open to the public but privately owned and managed, so there's the time limits and things to the public.
Which aren't enforced.
Councillor Manley, you put your hand up again.
Just one more thing. I believe that there may be in discussion about putting a 3-hour restriction on their car park. And if they do, obviously half the people who park in there who work in town will have to park elsewhere, so it shouldn't be until that happens.
Councillor Paul?
Well, let's start with Tesco's car park. Tesco's car park is under the jurisdiction of DGC. It is a short stay car park anyway, so that I hope clears that one up. There are more than adequate parking provisions in Daventry, and when I go out and about at various meetings and I meet other councillors from other towns, they are gobsmacked by the amount of car parking space in Daventry town. I'm not saying that it is not a problem, because it is, but nevertheless. The opening times suggest that people will go there before work, as said by my colleague Councillor Randall, and they will go there after work, obviously when the shops are not so busy. The Town Council have the audacity, and I use that word not lightly. The assumption is customers could use public parking that is provided to encourage shopping within the town centre, not free parking for a commercial gym. Well, we supply car parking for commercial entities, and don't get me wrong, I don't know any gym where people turn up in a bowler hat and a three-piece suit. We have Sports Direct, other retailers in the town selling sports clothing. We have several shoe outlets in town selling soft shoes, trainers, etc. So how they can actually say that it's not supporting or these car parks are only for people that have to come in to shop. Well, if that was the case, then we wouldn't have any shops open because of the buildings. Go back to the offices, it's already been stated, there are more office space in Daventry that you could throw a stick at. So much so that buildings along the high street that had offices above are now converting them into residential. I have no problem in seconding and supporting officers and advice. It would be a tremendous asset to the town. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Paul. We have a proposal which then seconded that the application be approved. All those in favour, please show. Right, those against? 2.
Can it be recorded or voted against, please?
Sorry?
Can it be recorded or voted against, please?
Yeah, I'm sure we can do that. So the application is approved, 8 votes to 2. That concludes the meeting. Thank you for attending.